Greetings, everyone. Monday, November 10th, 2025, here on the Wolverine.com Monday night show. We are live here every Monday night at 6 p.m. Anthony Broom here with Chris Ballas and Clayton Safey, and a lot of ground to cover this week. Michigan football is coming off a bye week. We spoke to Sherrone more today as they prepare for their game against the Northwestern Wildcats at Wrigley Field on Saturday. I'm extremely excited for this trip, in some ways more than any other one this year. So we'll talk about what Sherrone Moore had to say. Of course, the schedule up on the screen right now. Two more regular season games, both on the road, at Northwestern, at Maryland, before the final exam at the end of the regular season with the Ohio State Buckeyes coming to Ann Arbor as Michigan goes for 5 in a row in that series. Also, Monday is also Dusty May press conference day. Michigan basketball, the newly minted number 6 team in the country. After today's AP poll, they will take on Wake Forest tomorrow. If you're listening on Monday, it'll be Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. on Fox Sports 1 at Little Caesars Arena in downtown Detroit. So a lot of ground to cover there. And of course, as we do every week, we will take your questions to end the show. But fellas, welcome back. I hope everyone had a great weekend.
It was great. Great wedding. Ben Pfizer got married. Satis Pfizer on the board. And what a fantastic.
He already got his shout out.
Yep, but I'm going to tell him what a great wedding it was. So that was fun. Got to do that. Watched some college football as well. It was a fun weekend. So it's great. I like the weekend to recharge, guys. I don't mind the 2 buys anymore. I really don't. So and now we get to go to Chicago. So it's going to be a blast. Can't wait. Northwestern, I thought looked pretty solid. I'll be honest. I know that they got beat handily, but they play hard. That's not going to be an easy game for Michigan. Probably they're going to have to play well, but excited to get there, guys, and see that game with you.
Yeah, it was a great weekend, and I know I said on Thursday, I may not golf, a little too cold. Ended up golfing on Saturday morning, probably the last round outdoors of the year before it's simulator season. But we did a 3-man scramble, par 70. We were trying to break 8 under, and we got to 9 under, 61, with just a few mulligans. Was playing with a listener, David Bacon. So. He carried us at times, and I was the worst one on the team, but proud to be a part of it. Great weekend of college football, but it's better when Michigan's back in the mix. So I'm excited for this weekend. Wrigley Field, I've never been there. I've been to the Wrigley rooftops across the street, but like football, Wrigley Field, it should be about 59 and sunny. Last time I checked, it could be a really, really fun weekend in Chicago.
Yeah, the place smells like pee, but it does have some charm.
It does not smell like pee. That was pre-renovation, but
okay, well, good. I'm glad it doesn't smell like pee anymore.
I'm excited for it. Baseball kid growing up, Cubs games on WGN. This is kind of weirdly a bucket list thing to cover a game there. Now, did I ever think it would be a college football game between Michigan and Northwestern? No, I did not. But we will talk about that game, of course, in depth later this week when we do our Thursday show. Tonight, we are brought to you by our friends over at HomefieldApparel.com. I don't know about you guys. I'm freezing my rear end off now. I think the last time I looked at the thermostat, 27 degrees. It might be time for a wardrobe refresh with new hoodies, sweatshirts, joggers, sweatpants, as many layers as I can get my hands on over at HomefieldApparel.com. That's not just Michigan stuff. That's my alma mater, Central Michigan. If you got an Eastern Michigan fan in your life, God forbid a Michigan State, Ohio State fan in your life, or Michigan State, Ohio State fans, if you're watching, you can be included too. There's stuff for you over there as well. So new winter jacket that's up there. Looks incredible. Those just came out over the weekend. So head on over to HomefieldApparel.com and start loading up. I have passed a moratorium where I'm allowed to buy stuff for myself. The rest of the year, it's all got to go on a Christmas list now. So if you're like me and you're not allowed to treat yourself between now and the holidays, start putting your list together. And I think a lot of stuff on your list will be from our friends at HomefieldApparel.com. So head on over there, refit yourself, and support great people who are based out of Indianapolis, right in the heart of the Big Ten country. Big win for the Hoosiers over the weekend as well. Crazy finish to that game. So shout out to the team down there at Homefield Apparel. We're also brought to you tonight by ourselves at the Wolverine. We're always looking for new family members, so to speak, new board members. Get yourself behind the paywall. Use that promo code UM1 for 2 months of access to our site for a single $1. At this point, that's going to take you into the year 2026. That's going to take you into Ohio State week and signing day and portal season and maybe college football playoff intel. We'll see. Bowl season, whatever it looks like. You can sign up for the Wolverine today using that promo code UM1 for 2 months of access for a single dollar. That's all it takes. So take advantage of that deal today. It's for listeners and viewers of our podcast only. All right, off the bye, Michigan sitting at 7-2. We spoke to Sherrone Moore on Monday afternoon, or it was Monday morning, technically, in Ann Arbor. I got my times all mixed up here, but a lot to sift over. Last week was another bye week, opportunity week, as they like to coin it around there. Guys getting healthy, maybe some younger guys being thrust into expanded roles. I think the big thing right now is Sherrone Moore said it. A lot of juice in the building at the moment. Warts and all, they're still 7-2. Their goals are still very much ahead of them. The playoff bubble at least lightened up a bit this weekend with Iowa losing. Washington lost what is an elimination game for them at Wisconsin. So things lighten up a little bit in the Big Ten. Across the country, there were some other upsets as well. But Michigan sitting at 7-2 coming off the bye. Exciting for them to be back. And, for all the reasons we said earlier about the venue this weekend, it's a big week for this team.
It is, and this is the one, I think, before Ohio State. I think they're going to handle Maryland on the road. Maryland's no good. Northwestern's not great, but again, like I said, they played hard. Did you guys, I'm sure you guys both watched that USC game on Friday night, right? So USC had to earn what they got on offense, especially early in that football game. So fake punt, they had to convert some third downs. And, they pulled away at the end, but Northwestern really played them tough. If they don't, let's be honest, if that fumble doesn't go through the end zone on the interception, they might be up at halftime in that game. So this will not be an easy game, but this is a game that if you're Michigan, you have to win it. And they're a 9.5-point favorite for a reason. I think that this is now the time. We look at the bye week last year, guys, when they came back and they beat Northwestern so handily. After that second bye week, I expect Michigan to start to crescendo here and start to play its best ball. We have not seen this team play its best ball yet this year. I think that's pretty clear. It's time going into that Ohio State game that you put a couple really good games together, see the offense start to click a little bit more. Bryce Underwood start making some strides. This offensive line a little bit better in pass protection, and the receivers stepping up a little bit. So it is good that they're getting some players back. Sherrone Moore did talk about that today. Probably one of the linebackers, hopefully between Cole Sullivan and Jimmy Rolder. It's hard to know, guys, because we've heard so many times, so many different reports from Sherrone. He's getting close. And then guys have been out for the year, or we don't feel good about it, and then a guy's back the next week. So, but they do seem encouraged by the direction of the injuries. Marlon Klein, we got him today. He'll play. Donovan McCulley will play. Both of those guys were banged up against Purdue. So excited to see how they come out on Saturday. Love the weather report, Clay. You beat me to it, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, they needed the bye at that time, and even just getting those two back, let alone at least one of the linebackers, one of them coming back would be huge. But yeah, I mean, they're 18 in the AP poll, 21 in last week's college football playoff rankings, and then tomorrow it'll be updated, but you're seeing teams lose, opportunity to move up. It doesn't really matter where they sit at this point because Michigan pretty much controls its own destiny in a weird way, even though there are so many variables in college football and it's based on whatever the committee decides, but you win out and you get there. So, you can't look ahead. There's no reason why you should. As Sherrone Moore said today, they're on their P's and Q's and, whatever. I mean, you have to attack each week as its own. And even if it looks sloppy, and who knows if they did look ahead or whatever it was against Purdue, you have to come out with wins the next three. It is officially that time of year where you don't grade wins as much anymore. Although, like you said, Chris, we'd much rather see them play their best football in these next couple games leading into Ohio State. But at the end of the day, win, survive in advance, and see what you can do against Ohio State. But yeah, it's an interesting challenge. I mean, Northwestern has lost their last couple, but they've hung tough. I mean, they beat Purdue by more than Michigan did. Not that the transitive property really matters, but yeah, it was a game changer. The pick six that ended up just being USC ball again in that game. So things go a different way. It's hard to win out west, but if things go differently a little bit, then it would have been even more competitive a game on Friday night. But Michigan's got to really show up to this game, and it's going to be a good crowd in terms of pro Michigan crowd, but it's still on the road, and Michigan hasn't fared all that well on the road this year.
Yeah, it's time to grow up now. And that doesn't mean that you need to drop a 50 burger on them. It would be great to see, be incredibly encouraging, but we're in the time of the year now where, the discussion point, I feel like this last month or so has been, well, gosh, look at how young they are on offense, or look at how many young guys they've been playing on the defensive side of the ball. This is where that youth needs, they have experience now. You've played in games. You've gotten used to what the battle rhythm of what a college football Saturday looks like. And these are two opponents where do you need to handle, like, does it make a difference if you handle them before Ohio State? I guess it could, but I think when it comes to a young team, the most important thing you can do is win and keep winning. I think that's the most important muscle to work out, because there's still a lot of things you can correct and get better with through all that. But Northwestern, it feels like a vintage Northwestern team. Like, there's nothing about them that really jumps out on paper. On the offensive side of the ball, they're going to try and move the ball 4, 5, 6 yards at a time. They're physical, they're stout. That's a good challenge for a team coming off a bye, especially if there's a little bit of rust to shake off, like we saw in that Wisconsin game a couple weeks back. So in terms of, we hit on some of the health updates. Justice Haynes, again, it's just going to be a week to week, probably not the rest of the way, but we'll see. Cole Sullivan is a guy that could feel, Sherrone said he feels good about potentially returning this weekend. He said, we'll see on Jay Shambaram and Jimmy Rolder. Hogan Hansen, he said this week or next. Evan Link started to move around a little bit. We'll see how he factors back in, though I think Blake Frazier certainly has done enough to hold on to that job at left tackle, at least for now. I want to get to the super chat quick from Merez Herrick. I'll leave it on the screen. He says, love you guys. No questions this time. So very generous of you to say that. We appreciate you watching, my friend. Other than injuries,
we love you back.
We do love you back. Thank you so much for the generous super chat. The only other injuries, Donovan McCulley, Marlon Klein will be okay. It seems like they'll be out there Saturday. So about as good a clean a bill of health as you could maybe hope for heading into this week. Doesn't seem like anything will linger, but maybe some guys still a week or so away.
Or Hogan Hansen, he said maybe a week away, maybe not this weekend, but the following. They've been playing without him all year anyway, right? So he's played in 3 games now, and there's been some talk that, hey, wouldn't it be better just to maybe play one more game and then let him redshirt and not waste a season of eligibility? So that's something I asked Sherrone more about today, and he said we've had those conversations not just with the young guys, but with those veterans who might be better served coming back, right, for another year. So we'll see. With Rolder, with Sullivan, who knows? Rolder, it looked like a hamstring. You never know. You got to be careful with those things. We'd heard Sullivan might be a little bit more serious. So hearing that today was good news, I thought, as long as Sherrone's being straight up. You never know when it comes to injury reports. So they're getting back to healthy Rod Moore. You just don't know. To me, it's most important that they have Rod Moore for the Ohio State game, guys, right? Justice Haynes, anything they get from this point on is going to be a bonus, in my opinion. But, hey, everybody's banged up at this point in the year. And it's like he said, if you've got bumps and bruises, you're going to be out there and you're going to be playing, and you're going to be playing a little bit banged up, not necessarily injured, but a little bit banged up. So you have to suck it up. So I'm with you. I think Evan Link he comes back next year, maybe competes at guard, because I like Blake Frazier at left tackle. I think he looks like a natural there. He's only going to get better when he gets bigger and stronger. So all told, guys, really, and I wrote this, and Eric Burgess over here says the same thing. He said, you got to get one of those linebackers back, right? You got to get at least one of Sullivan or Rolder back, in my opinion, to get that room healthy and really be at your best.
Might be the most important thing. In Rolder, he's been their first or second best defender in 4 of the last 5 games he's played in. So I saw him today in Ann Arbor walking around, but if it is a hamstring or whatever it looked like it was against Michigan State, then walking is not the problem. But either way, Sounds like he's trending in a good direction. Jayshon Barham, I know that Sherrone Moore mentioned last week that he was likely to be back after the bye, and then he seemed a little bit less confident today. He kind of lumps guys in certain categories about feeling good means they'll probably play, and then we'll see is kind of 50-50. Maybe it's less than 50-50. Just what I've observed over the last year and 3 quarters. But yeah, I mean, I think that's big. On the Hogan Hansen thing, I mean, a guy who doesn't really get talked about and a guy who did struggle in his opportunities earlier in the year is Zach Marshall, who stepped in because Klein and Hansen really have not played much together. I think they've only been on the field together in 2 games, and neither of them were fully healthy in either of those games. Zach Marshall only has 3 less receiving yards than Marlon Klein, and I don't think anyone would have expected that would be the case this season. He's got 11 catches, 159 yards, 1 touchdown. He's been their best tight end in 2 of the last 3 games. So you do have the luxury of having built some depth up there and at some other positions. But yeah, I just continue to look at linebacker as that one spot where you need some guys back, because in the last game, it was not ideal to have a couple true freshmen out there, to have Troy Bowles playing extended time. So that's big. But really the biggest thing, and maybe we'll talk about it, that I'm looking for is not only them getting healthy, but having a more balanced attack offensively.
And Klein was supposed to be that mismatch, right? And he came out with firing on all cylinders here, and he was Anthony's pick, right, to be that breakout player of the year. And I think he's been banged up a little bit, but I want to see more from him. He's a guy that I think has the physical ability to be better than he's shown at times. So hopefully, like you said, Marshall has emerged here, but I think Klein can be that guy if they can just keep him on the field.
More than half of Klein's production came in the opener.
Yeah.
In terms of yardage, 93 of his 162 yards came in the opener, and then 6 of his 15 catches came in the opener, and his only touchdown came against New Mexico in that first game. So, man, after watching what he did against New Mexico, and to think that, and I know injury is part of it, but to think that he wasn't going to do really a whole lot until, hopefully in the next 3 games, it would have been hard to believe at the time.
It's the Anthony Broom, Andrell Anthony jinx is what it is.
That's not fair. I predicted preseason he'd break out, and he did. Then he got hurt. So.
And happy birthday, by the way, Anthony Broom. We love you, man.
Oh, shucks.
Yep.
That's Venmos are open.
Yes.
I get
super chats.
I got some trips coming up here, so I got to thumb my way down to Chicago as is. So, thank you guys. That means a lot. We have a super chat here from Wolverine Casual for $5. He says, do you have any insight on how Bryce is handling the adversity? He's a young guy who's dominated all of his career. Has to be hard. Seems understandably frustrated at times. I view where he's at as just a natural progression and roller coaster that comes with being a young quarterback. I think that there are obvious infrastructure things that hold this team back in terms of, whether it's the talent on the offensive line or now the youth on the offensive line. A lack of consistent playmaking. I mean, we talk about if I had told you preseason that their most consistent pass catcher was going to be Andrew Marsh, you guys probably wouldn't have felt very good about that. Donovan McCulley's been inconsistent. Marlon Klein has been inconsistent. Bryce himself has had a couple weeks where it seems like he's sped up a little bit. So when we talk about how beneficial the bye was, I don't think there's a player on the roster that maybe a guy that's healthy, I should say, that benefits more from the reset than he does, because this has a chance now to be, the start of a new story arc or portion of the season for him where, hey, you've been able to go in the lab, slow stuff down, maybe clean up some of your mechanics, and now it's game on. So, it doesn't matter if you're the number 1 recruit in the country or a former walk-on, whatever it is. At some point, defenses are going to figure you out, and you have to adjust, and the good ones do it. And now we see what those adjustments look like moving forward.
And he's been a great teammate from everything we've heard. And Sherrone Moore did say that today publicly in the press conference. And again, you have to take those things at face value. But everything we've heard behind the scenes is that they all really enjoy him. They all really follow him. He's got leadership ability beyond his 18 years, and they all look up to him. So, he's struggled at times. I would have liked to see him progress a little bit more. He seems to have some happy feet. The pass rush, whether it's there or not, there are times that he bails the pocket. And you would hope that he'd be more comfortable at this point in the year. And you see this progression where he's going up, because remember, Urban Meyer was gushing about him after performance one. He said, this kid's going to be a problem. And he is. He's got all the physical tools. People who are ripping on him, you know what? It's misguided. Number one, the receiving core hasn't been great. The offensive line has been kind of a carousel. So yeah, is he missing some blitz pickups? Or have there been some things that have been on him? Absolutely. But again, true freshman, I expect a huge jump next year. Hopefully it comes still this year, guys. And that by game 12 against those Buckeyes, he's the guy that we saw in the first game of the year where you're like, wow, this guy is doing some unbelievable things. So, but you know, the thing that I worry more about is like people in his ear, people around him saying, hey, you know what, maybe we need to go to a more pass happy offense and it's better for him, or so on and so forth. And I understand his NIL deal here, but maybe people planting ideas in his head, because people are always going to be doing that. So, but as far as he's concerned, he seems to be fine in his element and really enjoying himself.
Yeah, I mean, it's part of just the ups and downs of being a college player, but especially a freshman who's received this much playing time, and so much goes into playing that position. Not only is it magnified because it's the most important position and everyone's watching you, and you're at Michigan where the quarterback is always extremely scrutinized, but it's also a true freshman that you're going to have things that you need to just work out. I mean, Devin Gardner's talked about it on his podcast where they, you know, once he learns a little bit more about protections and changing protections, he's going to be even more confident about the pass protection, because he's the one that said it. He knows where guys are coming from, things like that. Just the little nuances that you don't really think about, and probably things that we didn't talk enough about in July, you know, when we were talking about what this offense could look like with Bryce Underwood. All that's playing out in real time now, and there are inconsistencies when you're a freshman playing. We've seen Bryce Underwood look really good this year at times. We've seen him look not as good. We've seen the same thing from the other true freshman quarterbacks around the country. Malik Washington at Maryland had a really hot start to the season, came out of the gates really strong, has been up and down throughout the year. And then just looking at Saturday, right? BYU loses to Texas Tech 29-7. Their freshman quarterback, Bear Bachmeier, averages 4.9 yards per attempt, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, got sacked once, 11 carries, 12 rushing yards. Tough day for him, even though he's been really good. And then you look at Cal's guy, and I'm watching that game late on Saturday night at Louisville. They go across the country, win in overtime. Jaron Kiawe Sagapulele. Anthony, you know how to pronounce it, right?
I think it's Jaron Kiwe. I'm not 100% sure on the last name.
Sagapulele, though.
Yeah, you got to break it down, and I'm not ready to do that right now.
He was, yeah, me neither. But he was awesome on Saturday night. He threw the game-winning touchdown pass in overtime at the goal line, 30 of 47, 323 yards, 2 touchdowns. You know, he had pressure as well, but he looked cool, calm, and collected, and they go get a win over a top 15 team in Louisville. But, you know, the week before they lose. The week before that, they lose in double overtime. Like, there are ups and downs for these guys throughout the year when you're in there as a true freshman. So, you know, you hope that the ups are coming for Underwood, because it was just a few weeks ago that he has best game against Washington.
And that's a guy who's had 9 picks this year too. I mean, I know it's spur of the moment, but I remember there was at least one post on our board where it's like, oh, I'd rather have that freshman QB is better than the one Michigan has. And I don't know. I mean, if you want to make that argument, fine. But if Bryce has done anything well, which he hasn't done well of late, is taking care of the football. So the fact that you have mostly avoided a complete bottom falling out, again, I knock on wood here, self-destruction from your starting quarterback on the field, I think that it's a feather in his cap as well. So obviously a lot of work to do in his development. And, you know, I know we talk about it all the time where maybe next year and 27 are the years to watch. There's still his best football ahead of him in his current iteration too. So we'll be tracking that. Obviously, GoBlue 982 says for $5 super chat says, I do not think Haynes plays another down for Michigan until a bowl game. Maybe will he go pro or return to U of M? Addressing the first part, I think that it probably hinges on how well his recovery is going. I mean, maybe he goes against Ohio State, but it might also be dependent on if Michigan makes the college football playoff or not. I think there's a lot of outcomes on the table here.
we'd heard before, even before he announced that he was having surgery, that he was going to have a decision to make, and that if he were to shut it down, it would probably be to get ready for the pros. So I don't think there's a chance that he comes back next year. I think he strikes while the iron is hot, and I think he's, frankly, guys, I think he's ready. This guy is something pretty special. So that's what we know about that. In terms of can he come back, he was telling people, from what we understand, that he really wanted to be back for the Ohio State game. We'll see if that makes sense for him. As Sherrone Moore has said, he said, we're going to do what's in the best interest of the kid and his career, which is why they took it easy and took the gas off Rod Moore a little bit. So that's where it is with Haynes. That's what we know about him right now. And I think you're probably right. Say they make the playoff, maybe he comes back for that. But I do think that this will be his last year in a Michigan uniform anyway. I'm pretty confident in that.
It's the best interest in most Michigan Wolverines careers or further careers to do everything they can to play against Ohio State. So I think people love to hear that he's going to try. And it'd be weird to have a season where he looked so good and he was kind of in that Heisman discussion, at least, when you could project down the road and say, if he keeps doing this, he could be in that conversation. And then to not play against Ohio State, it was an unfortunate injury. Obviously, everyone hopes he returns at some point. But yeah, I mean, Tony Alford has been upfront with these guys that he wants to get guys in and out in 3 years, because it means, one, there's tread on the tires left for the NFL. We all know how running backs' careers can go. And secondly, he wants to develop the hell out of these guys, turn them into pros, recruit other extremely good athletes behind them, play them, and just keep this cycle going. And when you look at next season, not that Justice Haynes wouldn't be able to compete with these guys, but I think just to look at it from a Michigan standpoint, the Wolverines are in a great spot at running back going forward. You have Jordan Marshall next season, Savion Hyder. I am unbelievably excited to watch him, the 5-star running back who might be the best overall prospect in the 2026 class coming in next year. So that's exciting. Tony Alford has done an unbelievable job with those guys. In the short term here, Jordan Marshall, you have to keep him healthy, but he is going to be the heartbeat of this offense down the stretch. And if they beat Ohio State, it's probably going to take a performance that, is just warrior-like, because he may have to carry it 35 times. Bryson Cusdahl, Jasper Parker, those guys have to be ready not only to run the ball, but pass protect as well. And Sherrone Moore mentioned that. They had some issues, both of those guys, when they were in limited action last game in pass protection. So they got to get up to speed right away, because those could be the difference, whether you hit one of those deep balls or not. Certainly you hope Marshall's in the game in some of those bigger spots. But if it has to be one of the other guys, if Marshall's cramping up like he was at the end of last game, someone else has to step in. So it's a little bit dicey there with the depth right now. But man, you lean on Marshall the rest of the way here.
And I'm excited to see him against Ohio State either way, to be honest. An Ohio kid that really wants to play in that game. I wrote about that today, man. If Haynes can't go, I don't feel bad at all having Jordan Marshall in that game running against the Buckeyes, his home state Buckeyes. How many Buckeye killers have there been from that state at Michigan? So regardless, I wish for the best for the kid. Obviously a tough break for him and for Michigan, but now you just got to hope that Marshall stays healthy, because the drop off after him is considerable.
Well, you think of this weekend, Northwestern can't tackle. They're a terrible tackling team. And it's all right, get ready to learn Jordan Marshall, buddy, because he's coming. And so he could have, he's already at 3 straight 100-yard games. I would imagine it's going to be 3 straight to end the year. You hope so, at least, considering, health could be a factor there. But he may have a monster end of the year here and be well over 1,000 yards. He's going to be over 1,000 yards for the season if he stays healthy. And, it could be one of those things almost like Hassan Haskins, where you just ride this guy. And if you pick up some big wins, this is going to be the season that you look back at and say, that was kind of the Jordan Marshall year.
Absolutely. Just to address the Haynes thing, I think when you look at, a lot of his outlook, you have to look at the running back class that will probably be in the draft as well. Right now, it's kind of Jeremiah Love as a Bijan Robinson type of top 10 guy, and everyone else at the moment. It's kind of a wide open race for that running back too. And some folks think that at his best, Justice Haynes might be a guy that's in that mix. So we'll see. Certainly you hope to see him back. If he's back, that means, one, that he's healthy and able to play, but also that he's going to be available into some pretty important games if he's able to return. So any other thoughts from Sherrone Moore before we move into hoops?
Not really. I did like that he said that those guys came back. They were pumped up. They were, and again, what's he going to say? But he seemed sincere in that these guys were, really ready. They were really ready for the stretch run here, understanding what's in front of them, right? That all of their goals are still on the table. I think it'd be a lot different, guys. For example, if they'd lost at Nebraska, they had 3 losses right now. It's just kind of a death march to the Citrus Bowl or to the Outback Bowl or something like that. So when you've got the schedule you have in front of you and you see that game on November 29th, you've won 4 in a row. You know that you're in their heads. You're going to have an opportunity in that game that it's going to be absolutely massive if you win these next 2 games. Then, yeah, I think it helps get you through those bumps and bruises and everything else, and gives you that oomph that you need to get to that Ohio State game. So I'm excited, guys. I love going to Chicago. Can't wait to see some people there that we know. I'm sure that they are feeling pretty excited about it too. But Sherrone Moore seems to me in really good spirits with his team and excited that he's getting some guys back. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, just that the pass game, and that the fact that they had a couple weeks here to evaluate it, and Chip Lindsey can, make some adjustments, and they can kind of drill home some of the things that need to be emphasized in it. And Sherrone Moore mentioning spacing and timing, it's not all on the quarterback. It's about the protection as well, which I think is huge. I mean, when you look at the pressure rate, in the games where Bryce Underwood plays his worst, the pressure rate is the highest, right? It's not a coincidence, but it all has to work together. Plus, last game you had the McCulley injury, later on. So then you didn't really get much rhythm later in that game. So having him back will be big. But it's time to break out in that regard, and not just have a good game, but have a couple in a row, string together some more good games in a row here with the passing game, and knowing that you have that strong rushing attack, which really deserves a lot of credit because. When you look at just going back to the Cal thing, looking at some of the stats for Sagapulatele,
just call him JKS.
JKS.
Yeah, it's kind of fun to say though, but he might have been the reason why they lost to Virginia the week before. He was the reason why they beat Louisville, right? Like Bryce Underwood, though, doesn't seem to be the determining factor in these games. Michigan has other things that are working for them. Typically a good defense outside of the USC game. Typically a really good rushing attack that's getting better by the week, even with some injuries on the O-line and at running back. So now it's just time to kind of take that next step in the passing game, because you do have a better infrastructure than a lot of these other teams that are playing young quarterbacks.
And Northwestern has a good pass defense as well. They've seen Oregon, they've seen USC, they've seen Nebraska when Dylan Raiola was healthy. So it's going to be a challenge. Clayton, I think this might be your guy, David Bacon, for $9.99. He says, "Hey guys, I have a fan question. My buddy Chuck was once a Michigan fan when he was a kid. Now he's a Michigan State fan, but he's interested in joining back. In that NIL era, can you switch fanhoods like this?"
Chuck, you made your bed. You lie in it, young man. It just is what it is. You've gone over there. You're all cootied up now. Let's just be honest. Let's just call it like it is. You roll around in the muck and then you want to come back. It just doesn't work that way. I'm sorry that somebody led you astray. Maybe it was Mark No Soul D'Antonio or whatever, or some of your MSU buddies. But once you go to the dark side, I'm sorry. There's no coming back. This isn't Star Wars, young man.
Could you start tithing towards Michigan's NIL? Maybe
I was going to say, in the here and now, everyone's got a price. Well, Jaden Mangum was a Spartan, and now he's a Michigan guy.
If Chuck wants to contribute like $100 a week or something to our podcast, then we'll consider it. How's that?
I'll settle for promo code UM1. We'll give him 2 months of access for $1. Get him back up to speed and acclimated.
Here's the thing too. I guess with Jaden Mangum, they're paying him, so it's not the other way around. But also, from the intel I have on this situation, I don't think Chuck actually does want to come back. So I think he's happy on the other side.
Good. Well, stay there then, Chuck, and good luck to you. Have fun with that.
You can't help someone who doesn't want to be helped. So.
Exactly. There it is.
But he helped us shoot 61 more than I helped the other day. So appreciate it, Chuck.
Well, it goes hand in. So you make the call then. Is he allowed back?
No.
Okay. There you go. So let it be written. So let it be done. Let's move into Michigan basketball. We talked to Dusty May on Monday afternoon ahead of tomorrow's game against Wake Forest at Little Caesars Arena, home of the Detroit Red Wings, Detroit Pistons. It's the house that pizza built, a semi-home game for the Wolverines. Last year, they went to Greensboro and played Wake Forest. The second game of the year, that was a 2-point loss. This time around, I think last I checked, they're a 12.5-point favorite. They bring something a little bit different to the table than what Michigan saw in their opener. But Dusty May, very adamant that he feels much better about his team after the last 7 days that they've had off without a game than he did this time last week. So the nation's number 6 team, trending up, trending in the right direction. Axel Lendeborg seems like he's going to be a lot closer to 100%. LJ Kaysen, a lot of good buzz thrown his way. Maybe we see a little bit of Winters Grady. We'll see what happens there. But what'd you guys make of what Dusty had to say in preparing for this game?
Can you see the swag when he talks about his team? And when I asked him about Oscar Goodman, he's like, well, do you want to play for a team that's going to, and he almost said probably something like contend for a Final Four, be a national championship contender. But he said, well, we could play in any conference and compete or something like that. But you can just tell the way he talks that he expects his guys to be competitive in every game and to really compete in the Big Ten and compete on a national stage. And just the way he's assembled this team, you believe him when you listen to him talking, right? And again, no disrespect to Juwan Howard, but there were a lot of generalities when we were talking to him and answering questions. Clay and I were talking about this afterwards, about how he goes in depth on each answer, and you learn something every time you talk to him. It was like the same thing with John Beilein, who's obviously the greatest coach Michigan basketball has ever had. So it's fun listening to him. You asked the injury questions. He said Lendeborg's going to be back healthy. LJ Kaysen is looking good. The one concern I have is that when you get against a team like a Cincinnati that's going to challenge your guards, are there enough ball handlers? He did say there were enough guys to get you in to the offense, where he feels really good about that. After Elliot Cadeau, it's not really about a backup point guard, he said, because we're playing positionless basketball, but you need guys that can handle the ball so that you're not turning it over in the backcourt and the ball's going the other way. So he thinks Kaysen can be that guy. He said Trey McKinney has really improved in that area, in that respect as well. So to me, that's the only real question mark on this team. I think they've got the shooters. They aren't going to be making 19 threes every game like they did against Oakland, but he did say that they are shooting the ball extremely well and better than last year. So when he says things, they are not coach speak. I believe what he's saying. I know that he's got a good basketball team. Last year, guys, was kind of a fluke, that Wake game, right? There were a couple threes that were just crazy, some phantom calls down the stretch and a slippery floor that led to that loss. I feel very confident about this Michigan team going into Tuesday night's game. And what he said about the improvement over a week, right? Because I thought they looked pretty damn good in the exhibition against St. John's. But the way they came out smoking against Oakland, this team is going to be a really, really tough out, not just in the Big Ten, but nationally. They play a tough schedule, but love watching these guys play.
Now we anxiously await, who the officiating crew is for Tuesday night. We anxiously await who's going to be on the mop crew as well, so that there's not the wet spots on the floor like last year that caused the slipping. One of the weirder things I've ever seen, where it actually came down to them not properly mopping the floor, or at least could have come down to that. We'll never know, because it turns into a bucket on the other end. But also, so it was a little bit fluky at the end, and Michigan could have come out with a win there. But they learned a lot about themselves in that Wake Forest game a year ago. I remember when things slowed down and they're in the half court, they didn't really know exactly what to do. That half court, they scored under 0.9 points per possession in the game against Wake Forest. I think Dusty was kind of referring to some of that when he didn't go into detail about exactly what things. He did a couple things, and more so on the other end of the floor, but that Wake Forest is going to do. But yeah, he mentioned the challenging catches, pushing them off their spots, making them uncomfortable, pressuring the ball. And those are things Michigan did not deal with against Oakland at all. They dealt with a zone that hardly even got set up because of Michigan's tempo. It's something that they did deal with against St. John's and handled pretty well. So they're going to have to pass that test again in this game, and they'll learn a lot about themselves in this one. And it's also a smaller team, more athletic, big guys who can spread you out, not great shooters. Neither of the two bigs that start have made a three this season, but Trayvon Spillers had only 2 in his career last year, 2 made threes, and then he made 2 against Michigan because they spread him out, because Michigan's a bigger team. And that's still something that the Wolverines are trying to deal with. And Dusty May doesn't feel like they're up to par right now in that category. When you have a 7'3" guy out there you can take advantage of it on offense, but on defense, you have to be able to guard as well. And 3's worth more than 2. So that's something Adai Mara is going to have to adjust to. I think Merez Johnson will be fine in that regard. But yeah, I mean, it's just another lesson, another potential learning opportunity for this Michigan team. But 12.5 point favorites on BetMGM, 160.5 is the over under. So Ken Pom has 84% chance of winning. So you would expect a win in this game, and then you move on to TCU, but no guarantees because Wake Forest does have some talent.
Both teams, it seems like, played somewhat fast. I think they're both inside the top 45 in terms of tempo. Based on what I was looking at earlier, Wake Forest has played American? Sorry,
yes.
I closed out of my tab. They played 2 bye games so far. Haven't shot the ball that well, have turned the ball over quite a bit. So, if you're Michigan, if this turns into a fast-paced game and you take care of the basketball, that 12.5 feels about right to me. It'll be interesting to see how the bigs adjust to a different style, a different matchup. And you talk about all of this right now is gathering data. You're looking for lineups that work against certain type of teams. You're looking at what types of teams might give you trouble. Now we think that Dusty has built a roster that is somewhat matchup proof, just in terms of the size and physicality and the optionality you have in your front court. If you need to play small, you've got guys that can do that and play the wing spots and shoot the basketball fairly well. So you just want to see where you're at in a lot of these areas right now, because you're going to see, if you want to make a run through the NCAA tournament, you could play 6 games and have 6 very different types of opponents. So I like how this matchup can challenge them. I like that they're going to get away from home, but it's still a friendly atmosphere. It'll be a Michigan heavy atmosphere down there at Little Caesars Arena. So any other thoughts on the matchup tomorrow?
Nope. I'm excited to be there, though. I love that atmosphere. I love Detroit. And I love big college games in the non-conference college basketball games. They need to get away from them in football, and I've said that just because there are so few games now, and it really doesn't do you any good. But when it comes to college basketball, and there's a question over here about it, if I'm not mistaken, a super chat that we could probably segue into here. Thoughts on the tough non-conference schedule? I absolutely love it, because I think it prepares you for the Big Ten slate, right? And then it prepares you also for what you're going to see in the NCAA tournament. So the more big games you play, the more comfortable you get in them, and the more styles you get to see. So I think it's fantastic. It's exciting, and it brings me. I can't wait to go to Duke, for example. I'm not to Duke, but where they play in North Carolina. They play Duke in North Carolina.
Washington D.C.
Yeah, Washington D.C. rather. Yeah, so that's going to be a blast as well. So to me, it's exciting, and it beats the hell out of playing somebody that's an absolute tomato can.
Yeah, and I mean, Dusty May, he's talked about this on different platforms too with their schedule, because it is so tough and competitive, where he feels like if they have a team that's good enough to compete, they have a duty to the sport to schedule exciting matchups, which, you don't hear every coach even care about. They probably don't even care about that. Secondly, he's playing for a high seed in the tournament. He's trying to build up a big resume, and I don't think he would have scheduled a lot of these games if he didn't have the team that could compete. So that's exciting. And then they also pick even the teams like Oakland, like he talked about today, that he feels like that win is going to age really well. And it already started to on Friday night, watching that game on the Peacock. You had Oakland hang in with Purdue in the second half. It was a 3-point game with under 8 minutes to go. Oakland had a 3-point lead late in the first half. And, it was kind of a fun watch. I know TKR was out for Purdue, but either way, at Mackey, it was an incredible atmosphere down there. They were the number 1 team in the country at this point. They actually caused Purdue to fall to number 2 in the AP poll after winning by 10 points. But so he feels like that's going to help their metrics by the end of the year. Same with a lot of these games. The Wake Forest one was obviously scheduled last year, and same with the TCU. But I mean, you got San Diego State, Auburn, one other really good team in Las Vegas. He's got them going to play Duke in Washington, D.C., which is the site of the East Regional in the NCAA tournament. I think he wants to get them in some of these NBA arenas to get used to it. We'll see that tomorrow in Detroit. It's NBA style arena at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. They're going to play in United Center for the Big Ten tournament, which is the host of the Midwest region. I mean, he put together a heck of a schedule. Everything was for a reason, and it's going to be really fun to watch. Only 3 bye games, I believe, or 4 this year. You have LaSalle, McNeese, Middle Tennessee, and then you had Oakland. So that's 4. When he was talking today, it used to be 6 or 7, 8, even in some years. But it's a really competitive schedule.
It's a fun one too. The bye games are great for testing stuff out and maybe getting some confidence, but there's nothing on, like, there's a lot of good matchups that will test them. That Duke one is by far, like, that is the circle triple underlined game that I think we're all excited to see when it comes. But 6:30 p.m. tomorrow at Little Caesars Arena in downtown Detroit, Michigan, Wake Forest, Fox Sports 1. Do I have that right?
That is correct. Jason Benetti, Bill Raftery on the call.
Oh, awesome. They got the A crew. That's great. So it should be a lot of just get down there. Tickets aren't too crazy. I think last I checked, you can get in the door for about $20-$25 a piece.
On game time?
On game time, of course. That's all I use now. The other people, to hell with that until they sponsor us, of course. But anyways, speaking of sponsors and housekeeping, we didn't do a post-game show this week for football, so we want to shout out our friends, of course, over at BRUNT Workwear. Talk about weather changing. I mean, if you haven't gotten your fall cleanup in yet, you're gonna have to wait a few days because it's slushy out there now. But whether it's clearing snow, slush, leaves off your property, BRUNT Workwear are going to be the boots that you want to use. They are comfortable. They're comfortable right out of the box. Extremely durable. So get yourself a pair of BRUNT boots. Use that promo code Wolverine over at BRUNT to get $10 off your first order. Just head over to bruntworkwear.com. Use the promo code Wolverine, and you are all set and good to go. So we talked about layering up earlier. When it's cold out, you got to get yourself a good pair of boots. And if you're doing work outside, you need a good pair of work boots. So shout out to our friends over at BRUNT. We will move now into our Q&A section of our show. Going to start with the message board this week. Of course, the queue is open in the live chat. Feel free, guys. And if you use the super chat function, we will move you to the front of the line. But we will start on the board. This is from Indy Wolverine 23, simply asking, how confident are you we win the next 2 games? And that's football.
I'm confident. I think that Michigan, coming off the bye week, I think they're going to be healthy. I think they're going to be ready to go. I think they understand what's at stake. I expect them to play better football than we saw against Purdue. And even that game, guys, a couple turnovers in the red zone, or they win it comfortably at home. And I understand the ifs, and we keep seeing the lack of attention to detail and things like that in different areas. But I expect Michigan to play good football these next 2 games leading up into it. I think it's going to be 2 really great Michigan crowds on the road. And I think these guys appreciate that. So I do believe that this team has more to give. I think the ceiling's higher than they've shown, and I think they're going to take steps towards reaching it. Something in my gut just tells me that the leadership on this team and what's at stake, that they come out and play a really good game against I think a solid Northwestern team.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see the level of focus and the energy that they came out with after the second bye last year.
Mm-hmm.
That was incredible. And before that, it was not very good coming off of that bye. This year, you had the 1 bye, and you looked a little bit sluggish early against Wisconsin, and you had, but you still won. And then you had the USC game, and now you've had a few straight wins. But yeah, I mean, I'm fairly confident that they win the next 2. I think maybe 3 out of 4 times this plays out, they win the next 2, 75% chance of doing so, something like that. But yeah, like, we may have to see another level of this Michigan team, and maybe not to win these next 2, but at least to win them comfortably, that we haven't really seen consistently throughout the year. And you just hope that you don't look back at this season, when it's January and say that, man, they just never really put that game together. They never really looked like the team that we think they're capable of based on the amount of talent they have. So still time to do it, but I feel like it's something that we've been talking about for a while.
because it's 2 games and because like we've seen a couple weeks ago, like they are capable of turning the ball over and not playing very well. The confidence isn't 100%, but if I sat here and said I was 85, 90% confident, that I don't think that's that much of a hot take. So good teams handle their business in this spot, and more than just, win 20-17, or if you go to Maryland and win 28-24. Like if you're a good team, you handle business in these 2 spots before your big rivalry game to end the year. So confident in the result, not 100% confident yet in what it might look like, but I am confident that they will win both of those games.
They should have just scheduled the Citadel, honestly, like all these SEC teams are doing.
Right?
Yeah, well,
we'll tune up.
I can't even take that seriously. It's a joke. It's from SW Lion 26, who says, I'm just wondering if we're ever going to see Bryce Underwood under center. It's a waste not to do play action with such a good ground attack.
You can do play action in shotgun too, but and I think Sherrone was asked about that today, if I'm not mistaken. And he said, yeah, there are pros and cons to both. And really it comes down to what he's most comfortable with. But I do believe that play action too, when you've got such a run heavy offense and teams are starting to run downhill, and they have been, guys, defenses have been, that can open things up for you a little bit. So I do expect to see more than that of that down the stretch. And really it comes down to what he's most comfortable with. I'll be honest, I've always been the pet peeve guy, like on 3rd and half a yard, being in shotgun, needing to go 5 yards to pick up a yard and things like that. So, but understand the point. Maybe you can find the quote on that, guys, where Sherrone talked about it, the pluses and minuses. If not, SW, then you can go to our site and read about it. He did talk about that today, but I do think that more than anything, it's what Bryce is comfortable with.
And he talked more broadly just about the pros and cons in general of it. And, I think we all kind of understand those. I think it's probably a Chip Lindsey thing because they were much more under center in years past. I think it's more of that than it is Bryce Underwood can't take snaps from under center or whatever. It's kind of how the offense is built. I mean, remember they got away from it under Josh Gaddis for a while, to the point that their kneel down, like some of these other teams, was in shotgun as well. And that kind of annoyed me, but then they got back to some more under center stuff, especially in short yardage. I mean, I think play action does generally work better that way, but there are other reasons why they go in the shotgun. And he mentioned the pistol is very similar to under center in that way as well. So, I don't know that I expect them to make a major change there, but they did have time over the bye week to evaluate things.
We will take this one from Wolverine Casual, a $5 super chat. He says, if Wink and U of M part ways after this season, should Morgan, let's Lamar Morgan, get a chance, or should we shoot for a more experienced defensive coordinator? Lindsey has worked out quite well, in my opinion. Well, in the scenario where that does happen, I would prefer a known commodity, someone who's done it at this level, a guy with, obviously gravitas and maybe even a rising name. Could be from Group of Five, could be a positional assistant somewhere in the NFL, but I would prefer a guy that's done it before. Even guys like Mike McDonald and Jesse Minter had a bit of a background in different ways. I would prefer somewhat of a known commodity.
Yeah, we laughed about Matt Patricia at Ohio State, but he's done one hell of a job down there, right? You don't have to necessarily get the name, but you have to get the fit and the guy that's really good. And we saw that with McDonald. We saw that with Minter, right? Everybody was squawking about what Minter did at Vanderbilt the year before he came to Michigan. It's like that's really irrelevant. It's kind of what it's having the talent and knowing what you're doing. Those guys were obviously elite. I think Lamar Morgan's got a really bright future. I love listening to him talk. I love the fact that Jesse Minter, I believe, was one of the ones that recommended him for a position coach, and he's got some coordinating experience. So I do believe that's the direction they might go. If Wink were to leave Michigan, and we do know that he still has an eye on the NFL. He interviewed last year, so maybe he goes to the NFL. Maybe he just decides it's time for something different. But should he get a chance? I don't know. And again, this is as Jim Hackett, Michigan's interim athletic director, said, who hired Jim Harbaugh. He said we we just couldn't experiment anymore. And it kind of feels like it might be a little bit of an experiment. But with his job essentially on the line too, Sherrone Moore, if he goes in that direction, I'd have to be extremely confident to make that move. So I think Morgan could do it. Again, it's a bit of a risk just because he hasn't done it at a high level for a long time. But I do think that is probably the direction they would go.
I'd give him an interview. I think that with a guy that's done a pretty good job with his position, the secondary, he's a pass game coordinator, and he does have some coordinating experience. He deserves a look. He's been a coordinator for 2 years at Louisiana. But yeah, I mean, Mike McDonald was in the NFL. Jesse Minter had been a college coordinator for 7 years and had experience working for the Ravens as well. So it would be the least experienced coordinator. I mean, Wink Martindale has a hell of a lot of experience. It'd be the least experienced coordinator on defense that you would have in a really long time here at Michigan. When you think of Greg Madison, DJ Durkin, Don Brown, I mean, you can go back a ways here when you're talking about that. So it would be a risk, but I mean, if I could definitely see giving him a look. But right now, I think Wink Martindale's got to get an offer to go back to the NFL as well. So that's definitely part of it.
Yeah, we're dealing in a hypothetical, but it'll be interesting to see. I don't really have any else to add on that. CMA Wolverine wants to know, when will we get Rod Moore back, and how is his injury impacting his pro prospects? I was looking this up. I think PFF still has him at like number 60 on their big board, so maybe not as much as you'd think, but certainly getting him on the field and seeing him make plays in a huge game would be incredible for his pro prospects.
And I've seen others that have him much lower than that. So it'll be very interesting. They're taking their time now. Some people have surmised that maybe he could apply for another medical and come back for a 6th year. If he only plays in 4 games or something like that, maybe they hold him out to the Ohio State game and see what happens, because that he wants to play in that one, right? But I don't know how it's going to play out. I do know that they are going to be careful with him because it's about his career at this point. I also know that he could make a lot of money if he came back to Michigan, maybe more than he could make in his first year in the NFL, depending on where he gets drafted. So it's something that we're going to be watching closely. And I asked Sherrone about that today with the veterans. Do you talk about these guys and maybe coming back for another year if they get that chance, and how that might compare to their NFL prospects? And he said, absolutely, we do 100%. So it's something we'll be keeping an eye on, but I love watching him play. Whatever happens, I just hope it's in his best interest. I'm sure it will be.
Yeah. I mean, Anthony, looking at the PFF thing, he's at 50. Now, this was updated October 24th, but he's at 52 in overall prospects, which is pretty shocking considering he hasn't played a lot of football lately. I think when he's fully healthy, he certainly has the capability to be in that range. But yeah, I wouldn't think his stock is really high right now. And I think you could see that. Now, it was interesting a week or two ago when Lamar Morgan was asked about the possibility of Rod Moore redshirting. He didn't even seem to think it was a possibility. So it didn't seem like at that point those conversations have been had, although there's still time. So it'd be tough to say, hey, come back for a 6th year. This guy, all his friends from his class are in the NFL now, but it could be what's best for him if he does want to stick it out in college another year, if he's willing to do that, I guess.
And I guess that would be my question, is that if your stock isn't very high right now and you're not going to play much, if at all, the rest of the way, what does a 6th year do for you? Because that's just another year of football and wear and tear before you. And it's not like the NBA, where it seems like if you stay in college more than 2 years, these NBA teams send you ARP cards instead of combine invites. But yeah, it's an interesting debate and discussion for sure. I'd certainly hope we see him back sooner rather than later, because I think if he had come out, like, there was a little bit of buzz after the Natty season that he might have been a day 2 pick and in someone's organization right now. So it sucks. You just want the guy to get healthy and see him play football again.
Yeah.
It is about that time. I don't have anything else to add. You guys, any other comments before we get out of here?
Enjoy some birthday cake, brother, and have a great night. And And stay tuned, folks, on the Wolverine.com. Clay's going to have the play-by-play of Sherrone Moore's presser here on his radio show, which is always fun.
Remember to use that promo code UM1 for 2 months of access to our site. Get you behind the paywall, get you on the message board so you can submit some questions and ham it up with us more than just an hour every Monday night at 6 p.m. So be sure to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Anthony Broom for Chris Ballas, Clayton Safey, our producer Megan. I want to thank you guys for taking time out, and we'll talk to you again later this week. Thank you, everyone.